Audiobook Academy Biography presents Howard Schultz. He is the former CEO and chairman of Starbucks, a well-known coffee company that has made a fortune. Howard Schultz, who is he? Schultz was born in Brooklyn, New York on July 19, 1953, and graduated from Northern Michigan University with a bachelor's degree in communications before joining Starbucks in 1982 as Director of Retail Operations and Marketing. In 1987, he founded Il Giornale, a coffee company, which he sold to Starbucks, where he now serves as CEO and chairman. From 2008 until 2018, Starbucks CEO Howard Schultz indicated that he would step down as CEO in 2000. Later, he said that he planned to compete as an independent candidate for the presidency in 2020. Early life and professional success. Born on July 19, 1953, Howard D. Schultz relocated with his family to the Bayview housing projects in Canarsie, a southeastern borough of Brooklyn, at the age of 3. Schultz excelled on the basketball and football fields near his house and at school. In 1970, he received a football scholarship to Northern Michigan University after escaping from Canarsie. The year was 1975, and Schultz had just earned a Bachelor of Science in Communication from the University of Illinois. He immediately went to work for Hammerplast, a firm that imported European coffee makers and marketed them in the U.S. At some point in the 1980s, Schultz realized that he was selling more coffee makers to a small Seattle, Washington-based company known as Starbucks Coffee Tea and Spice Company than to Macy's. Even though Starbucks only had a few locations, every month, every quarter, these numbers were increasing, Schultz later said. In response, "I'm going up to Seattle," I responded. When Howard Schultz first stepped into Starbucks in 1981, it was the first time he had ever been there. Starbucks had only been operational for 10 years at the time, and it was only available in Seattle. In 1971, Jerry Baldwin, Gordon Bowker, and Zev Siegel, 3 old college mates, created Starbucks with the help of their neighbor. The mermaid logo, which has become synonymous with the coffee firm, was also conceptualized by the trio. Schultz subsequently recalled that the first time he went into the business, "I felt I was home. I don't know how to express it. The product, on the other hand, seemed to speak to me since I was in a specific location." He then went on to say, "Until now, I'd never had a good cup of joe. I was able to meet the company's founders and learn about the history of fine coffee for the first time. This is something I've been seeking my entire professional career, and here it is." Schultz had no idea at the time how fortunate he was to be introduced to the company, or that he would play an important role in shaping Starbucks into what it is today. The modern Starbucks was born. He was appointed as Starbucks head of retail operations and marketing a year later, in 1982, after meeting with the coffee company's founders. At the time, Starbucks sold coffee beans exclusively, not coffee drinks. Later, co-founder Zev Siegel said that his initial impression of Howard was that he was a fantastic communicator. "As far as I know, he's still there." Schultz set out early on to make his mark on Starbucks and to make the company's goal his own. The quantity of coffee shops that he came upon while on vacation in Milan, Italy, in 1983, was a revelation. He then had an idea: Starbucks should offer more than just coffee beans. Something caught my eye. Coffee isn't just about romance, it's also about community. People's affinity for coffee, both for the location and for one another, also had a role. Schultz recalled this. "As soon as I returned to Seattle after a week in Italy, I was convinced with such unfettered passion that I couldn't help but share my findings with my friends and coworkers." Starbucks founders, on the other hand, did not share Schultz's enthusiasm for creating coffee bars in Starbucks outlets. "We thought, oh no, that's not for us," Siegel recalls saying at the time. "Coffee was offered at our store throughout the 1970s. We even had a large espresso machine behind the desk at one time. Then again, we were a bean company." Schultz, on the other hand, persisted until the proprietors of a new store in Seattle finally allowed him to open a coffee bar. Instantly, it became a huge hit, drawing in crowds of people every day and introducing a new dialect to Seattle, dubbed coffeehouse language. The success of the coffee bar, on the other hand, proved to the original founders that they did not want to move in the route Schultz envisioned. There was a reluctance to grow. As a result of his disappointment, Schultz quit Starbucks in 1985 to create his own coffee shop chain called Il Giornale. With the support of investors, Schultz purchased Starbucks and merged Il Giornale with the Seattle company 2 years after that. Starbucks eventually promoted him to the positions of CEO and chairman, known thereafter as the Starbucks Coffee Company. Convince investors that Americans would pay high amounts for a beverage they had previously received for 50 cents, and that this would be a profitable venture. A cup of Nescafe instant coffee and a high-grade coffee bean were two different things to most Americans at the time. As it turns out, American coffee consumption had been declining since 1962. Starbucks CEO Howard Schultz announced his resignation in the year 2000. However, 8 years later, he was back in charge of the corporation. Schultz said CBS in a 2009 interview, "We're not in the business of filling stomachs, we're in the business of nourishing souls." Success is continuing. With a net worth of $1.4 billion, Howard Schultz was placed 359th on Forbes magazine's Forbes 400 list of wealthiest Americans in 2006. According to Forbes's list of the world's richest people in 2013, he was rated number 311. As of this writing, Starbucks is the most popular coffee shop chain in the world. With over 17,600 locations in 39 countries and a market capitalization of $35.6 billion in 2012, Starbucks had become a global powerhouse. Starbucks had more than 21,000 locations throughout the world and a market value of $60 billion as of 2014. Every day, the hugely successful coffee chain adds 2 or 3 new locations, bringing in an estimated 60 million customers a week. Since 1971, Starbucks has been dedicated to ethically sourcing and roasting the highest quality Arabica coffee in the world, according to the company's website. Gay marriage and racial sensitivity as social causes. When Schultz made a statement in support of legalizing homosexual marriage in March 2013, he was widely praised and made news. After a shareholder protested that Starbucks had lost revenue as a result of its support for a referendum to legalize gay union in Washington, Schultz stated, "Not every decision is an economic decision. According to what you stated, our shareholders received a 38% return over the past year. My guess is that you haven't invested in many things with returns of 38% in the last year, but I don't know how many companies, goods, or investments you have." As he went on to say, "The lens through which we are making that decision is the lens of our people. In our company, there are more than 200,000 employees, and we're trying to promote diversity. All kinds of different kinds of things. It's a free country if you think you can get a better return than the 38% you got last year. You have the option to sell your Starbucks stock and invest the proceeds in another business." 2 African American men were arrested for trespassing at a Philadelphia location in April 2018 after congregating at the store but not purchasing anything. Schultz then launched a program to teach people about racial bias in the hopes of preventing another incident like this from occurring. Retirement and speculation about the presidency. This month, Starbucks chairman Howard Schultz will step aside from his position. Howard Schultz's more than 28,000 outlets in 77 countries were part of the business at the time. He did nothing to dispel the idea that he was planning a run for the White House in 2020 by making the move. "For some time now, I have been deeply concerned about our country, the growing division at home and our standing in the world," he stated the New York Times, though he added that he was a long way from making any decisions about the future. Announcing his intention to run for president as an independent in January 2019, Schultz stated that he will first travel the country to promote his new book, From the Ground Up, A Journey to Reimagine the Promise of America, before making a final decision on whether to run or not. Schultz's campaign was hampered by back trouble, which necessitated surgery and took him off the campaign trail. He was also criticized for possibly alienating Democratic voters from the ultimate nominee. In September of this year, the businessman stated that he would not be running for President of the United States. According to a letter Schultz published online, "My confidence in the necessity of reforming our two-party system has not wavered," but he concluded that running for president as an independent was not the best way to serve the country at this time. Schultz and his wife, Sherry Kirsch Schultz, have 2 children, Jordan and Addison, who are now adults. In Seattle, Washington, he has a house in the Madison Park neighborhood. Thank you for listening in Audiobook Academy. Don't forget to subscribe and smash that like button for more content like this. See you in next video.